This one will name a player of the game as well, and then stay tuned for the Extra Point post-game scoreboard show. Matt Crawford with highlights, scores, and more from back at the studio. Again, the final tonight in Charlestown, Martinsburg 67 and Washington nothing. Well, along with Vic Holmes, I'm Matt Miller. Jason Colrick down on the sideline. Back at the studio, Matt Crawford, our engineer, and Chip Rittenhouse running our camera for TV10, recording tonight's game to post to our WRNR TV YouTube page, as we weren't able to get this one live, having some technical difficulties. Well, the Martinsburg Bulldogs with a 67-0 win over Washington. They've just broken their huddle, and head coach David Walker standing by with Jason Colrick.
Talking about it, thinking about it, and I was just my point of emphasis this past week was to focus on us, make sure we're doing the things that we're supposed to do, be fundamentally sound, and try to get better as a team ourselves. So I thought we did that, and now we can focus on the opponent next week, and it should be a great matchup.
Game like this, does this help you work on any certain aspect of the game that you needed to maybe prepare for a game like that?
I mean, not really. We just come out and ran our offense and just, we reacted and did the, whatever they were lining up in, we just made adjustments. So, we stayed pretty basic tonight.
I brought up the matchup next weekend against Sharando. What are your initial thoughts on that?
I mean, they're a great football team. Maybe the best Sharando team I've seen since I've been at Martinsburg. And, they could have beat us last year. We got out there and squeaked one out on them. And they got everybody back. So, be a big challenge for our football team. But either way, I think we're going to be a better team after next week just because we're going to be playing a great team.
The coach and you happy that game's at home?
Well, yeah, obviously, anytime we can play at home, I like that. But and we always have a hard time down at their place anyway. So, yeah, I'm glad we're at home.
And then the AD side of you says, man, I wish this game was on the road.
No, the AD side of me really wants it at home because there's going to be a lot of people there, and that means we're going to have a big gate. I got to pay the bills, right? But it'll be exciting for our school and our community, I think. I think it'll be a good crowd. Should be a good environment. And Coach Hall does a great job down there, and they've got great players, and there'll be two good teams going at it.
Hopefully it'll be weather like this and not what you've been practicing in this week, huh?
I hope so. I've had about enough rain, that's for sure. But either way, we'll have to prepare just the same.
I said it being in the pregame, it was kind of ironic that all the rain that we've had for this last 4 months, the last 4 years that you've actually played Washington, it's been just the opposite. It hasn't rained during the week but poured down. So you must have done some kind of magic rain dance.
Yeah, it's odd. We were talking about it's rained every year we played Washington. It seems like, especially the last 4 or 5 years. But tonight was a beautiful night, nice crisp fall night, and great football weather.
Well, congratulations, Coach, 6-0, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. There you go. That's it from down here at the field.
All right, Sideline Reports with Jason, a service of Mike Folk for State Senate District 16, accountable, ethical, responsible. Vic, all Martinsburg in this one, dominating from really the opening kickoff on. You said in the pregame they just have to come out and do what Martinsburg does, and they did that tonight.
Well, they did. I think their intention was to come out and just play their game. And, this aspect of something I can never grasp is thinking about next week's game or whatever, the next opponent, which is going to be Sharanda, who's undefeated. The big game last year, the three-pointer, field goal at the end to win the ball game. I don't know how you do that. And as an athlete, I it never crossed my mind the fact of who you're going to play next week because it's a big game. They came out here and just took care of business. They do what they do, and they do it well. The fact that sometimes teams will come out and they'll be a little sluggish. They'll make a bunch of miscues or whatever. This team didn't. This team just came out, and again, they do what they do, and that is come out, run the football, they block, they tackle, they throw the football, and they did it here tonight. They did it last week, against a very good football team. So I didn't think there was going to be any kind of a lapse of any sort simply because they were playing Washington.
Martinsburg lifting their winning streak to 34 consecutive games since the start of the 2010 season. Now 107 victories in their last 114 games. And against West Virginia opponents, they have now won 75 of their last 77 games, and just continuing to keep it rolling. The Martinsburg Bulldogs improving to 6-0 as they get the win tonight by the final score of 67-0. All right, let's take a break and then come back on our post-game show as we take a look at some of the numbers from this one. It's West Virginia High School football on Talk Radio WRNR. Well, let's take a look at some of the numbers from this one, and we'll begin with the Washington Patriots. We had them in the first half, 26 plays, negative 27 yards. In the second half, 12 plays for 26 yards. So they finished with 38 offensive plays, minus 1 yard. They had minus 3 rushing and 2 positive passing yards to get to that -1 yard total. 17 carries, 43 yards for Jace Bradbury, helping to lead the way, but the starting quarterback, Frank Amore, ended up with -23 yards, and then they also had a team carry for -22 on that high snap that went over the head of the punter on a 4th down play as well. So a couple of pretty big negative yardage plays really costing this offense. They never sustained anything. 2 of 12 on 3rd down conversions, had just 2 first downs in the ball game. They were penalized 5 times for 30 yards and ultimately ended up with a couple of turnovers in the second half on a pair of INTs, one for Martinsburg's Amatrice Haskins and the other going for the Bulldogs' Joshua Woodfork. That is about it. 2 of 15 passing for 2 yards is the final total for Frank Amore. All right, let's turn to the Martinsburg Bulldogs. We had them at 23 plays, 312 yards in the first half. Second half, 15 plays, 131 yards, or 443 yards on 38 plays. They did not throw the ball in the second half, so that means 143 yards in that first half for Elijah Banks. Closed out the passing. That means the Bulldogs ran for 300 yards tonight. And leading the way, how about Kevon Warren? 7 carries, 129 yards, 2 touchdown runs of better than 50 yards. He was impressive here tonight. Martinsburg with some good first half numbers as well from Elijah Banks, 7 of 9, 143 yards, a couple of touchdown passes. 4 carries, 62 yards, 3 first half touchdowns for Naeem Kearney, and 7 carries for 51 yards and a couple of scores as well for Trey Sine, and helping Martinsburg to get the job done.
Well, I'll tell you, I just... I want to go back, first of all, back up to Washington, and I want to say a couple good things about them. They didn't fall apart. They didn't just explode out there or anything of that nature. They tried to do what they wanted to do, run their offense and so forth. They didn't get out of that. They just got to realize that certain things you can't do against certain teams, and some things they tried to do tonight that probably, if they had the chance to do it over again, they wouldn't do some of the situations they put themselves in, and as far as throwing the ball and that sort of thing. They just simply got destroyed up front, offensively and defensively. It's the bottom line. So they couldn't run it and they couldn't throw it, and then they couldn't stop the run, and then of course they had all day to pass the ball because the guys up front dominated the ball game. But they did some good things tonight. They just simply were snuffed out, and you really couldn't tell as just ordinarily just looking at the game. You couldn't tell they were doing anything right, because of the fact that Martinsburg just dominated and just took everything away from them. But they had some good ideas of what they were trying to do. And against lesser teams, a lot of these things are going to work out for them okay.
Martinsburg, by the way, 3 of 5 on 3rd down conversions, 1 of 1 on 4th down conversions, and Martinsburg penalized 6 times for 70 yards on the night. We had him unofficially at 19 first downs. There is a look at some of the numbers from this one. All right, let's take one more timeout. When we come back, we'll go ahead and name our player of the game, and we'll set you up for our next broadcast and what is next for both of these teams. After that, we will send you back to the studio where, standing by, Matt Crawford has our Extra Point post-game scoreboard show. So we're coming back to Marcus Stadium after this brief timeout, where Martinsburg has defeated Washington 67-0. Is what?
Kearney Stein Warren.
They did. Yeah.
Afterburner, too. It wasn't like the Washington kid wasn't trying.
Right.
And pulling away. It was impressive as they didn't even use the
Get ready. But one more quick number to pass your way before we jump into our player of the game, and that's just the Martinsburg's continued dominance here in the Eastern Panhandle Athletic Conference. That is Martinsburg getting yet another win over these Washington Patriots, making it 11 in a row in this series, and that has Martinsburg's winning streak against the EPAC teams up to 65 in a row, and 73 of the last 75 meetings, with the only 2 losses against Jefferson back in 2005 and again in 2007. All right, time for us to name